You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to One on One, a KC Sports Network podcast. This is a special episode today. Many of our episodes are special, but this one's incredibly special because we have a really special guest on here, somebody who's really important to my family and obviously I'm sure needs no introduction. Before we get into that, quickly, our sponsor, Cookie Society Cookies. They ship nationwide. Make sure to check them out, cookiesociety.com. Okay, so today's guest is an award-winning actor and director who has starred in a number of not just hit films, but really iconic films spanning the last 3 decades, such as Heat, Perfect Storm, Crash, Longest Yard, The Dark Knight, as well as hit television shows like Prison Break, Invasion, Empire, and many others. He's also a family friend and an incredibly humble and awesome human being. We got William Fichtner on. Bill, great to have you on, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing just dandy, man. How you guys doing?
Oh, really excited to have you on. Doing great. Looking up your list of accomplishments before we hopped on, I was like, man, it's gonna take me 30 minutes to get through all this. So sorry if I missed some stuff, but thank you for coming on, Bill. I know you are a big time Bills fan, and obviously we have the game this week, so we'll get into that. But I have a ton of questions, if you're okay, if you don't mind me asking, about your acting career, because you've done such an incredible job, and what you've done is really amazing. And I want to sort of give the backstory of how we know each other. So Bill and my dad, Vinny, were roommates in college. And I remember growing up, Bill would be starring in all these films, and my dad would let me go and watch. And he was always so proud of Bill and what Bill was doing. And I remember my dad told me one time, Bill, he said, I was sitting there with Bill once at college, and Bill came to me and said, you know what, Vinny, I think I'm going to be an actor. And I remember telling him, you're full of shit, man. You're not going to be it. Go get a real job. Like, what are you talking about?
Get a real job. Exactly.
So, oh, man, it's like, that's typical dad. Like, he's such a jerk. But talk to me, Bill, I'm curious. Talk to me about your upbringing and sort of specifically, how it led to becoming an actor, because it's really unique thing. And obviously you're going to have people like my dad who are like, well, no, that's just wild. Don't do that. So like, what was the trajectory into acting and specifically growing up in Buffalo, and how that led to becoming a world-class actor?
Well, thank you for saying that. That's, the Reader's Digest version is, first, let me say this about your dad. So I'm a sophomore in college, and a new freshman moves into my dorm. And here's this guy come walking on the hallway. He's a couple inches taller than me. He's got long hair. And I hear him say, listen, James Cagney will never be as good as Humphrey Bogart. And I'm like, who is this guy? Anyway, that was about it. Then we were like best buddies since then. So we had a grand time. But, long story short, when I was in college, we met at SUNY Farmingdale out on Long Island.
Yeah.
And at the time, Farmingdale was only a 2-year school, and then I transferred up to SUNY Brockport to get my bachelor's. I was a criminal justice major. And when I was a junior, I got a call from an admissions counselor, and they said, listen, you can't graduate without a fine arts course. So I was kind of curious about it because I'd seen a couple of plays in New York when I was at Farmingdale, never thinking of changing, majors, doing something. But it piqued my interest, and then I had to take a class up there, so I took an improv class, and I just was kind of mesmerized by it all, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, could I because at that time, this is pre-computers, age of information. This is back in the mid 70s. Nobody knew actors.
Right.
Actors were something that happened on movie screens somewhere else, especially in Cheektowaga, New York.
Right.
So I just, finally I graduated school, and I just had a change of heart, and I'm like, I'm going to go to New York. I mean, talk about jumping off the deep end, huh?
Man, Bill, when you took that improv class, was it sort of a natural talent to it? Obviously your love for it sparked there, but did you feel like because you're a world-class actor. I mean, was it something that happened right away? Like, oh wow, I'm like, this is a natural for me, or
I'll
was
tell
it?
you what it was. It was there a teacher, and I remember her name was Sally Rubin, and I didn't know her before taking this class, but I was just loving it. And believe me, this is a theater class, and they can be a little clicky.
Yeah.
And here I am with my hair down to my shoulders, making sure that I had the vegetable drawer and our fridge in our apartment was for me, and I could fit exactly 23 cans of beer in it, not 24. So I had to drink that one while I was loading it up. And it's not like the theater department was all that welcoming. But this teacher, one day after about halfway through the semester, she asked me to stay after one day. And after everybody left the room, she looked at me and she said, I don't think I've ever said this to anybody before that's not in the theater program, but I really think you should do this. I mean, and that was so out of the blue. But it didn't land on me like, like, oh man, that could never happen. I was already, enjoying it. So it was a big thing. I mean, it's like everything. We've all had a teacher along the way that it says something or makes a difference in our life and you never forget it. And she was that person. So there we go.
Oh, that's incredible, Bill. Yeah, I think we can all point to those kind of people, right?
Sure.
So obviously you've made it to the tippy top. I mean, you're one of the greatest actors ever. You've starred in, like I said, these iconic roles. It reminded me of my football career. And one of the first games I played in was against the Steelers. And I remember getting ready to line up and looking, and in front of me was Alan Faneca, this Hall of Fame guard. And at quarterback, you have Ben Roethlisberger going to be in the Hall of Fame. And then Hines Ward had motioned in. And so I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is where I am. Like, I'm doing this. Did you ever have that moment where you're just, at the beginning of your career, like, wow, I can't believe this is my job now. Like I'm an actor, like, and I'm working with these incredible people.
Well, I'll tell you, when I moved to New York after college, so I was 21 in the fall of 78, and I didn't even want, because I didn't really do it in high school, and I took a few classes in college, but I didn't even audition for the first like 2 or 3 years. I wanted to study. I wanted to be good.
That's cool.
I wanted a sense of like, I don't want to go out there and like, hey, I'm an actor. I didn't even mention it to people. I think that's, and I really mean this. I think that's a little bit of my Buffalo sensibility, which is don't put the cart before the horse, know what you're doing. And I went and studied really hard. And, it's not that I didn't enjoy trying to do theater and things like that, but make no mistake about it, I wanted to work in movies. And, a lot of people go to LA, but I felt more comfortable East Coast, New York. And just to give you an example of like, hanging in there, everybody I knew got a job in a movie before me. I got my first film when I was 36, and I moved there when I was 21. And I just never gave up. I just never gave up. I'm like, no, it's going to happen someday. And I just kept studying. I kept working. I waited a lot of tables. And, here I am with, graduating with a bachelor's with honors. But all I really wanted to do was take this journey. And I just never gave up.
Bill, that's incredible, man. And I bet you it's so counter the mindset. I bet you when you're coming in contact with young actors and young actresses nowadays, I feel like everybody, the mindset is more how fast can we get in the game, right? It's not like do what it takes to be the best and then work your way up. It's, hey, I want to get in right away. Do you find yourself having to slow these young actresses and actors down that you're working with? Say, hey, listen, take your time, keep working your craft, and eventually keep persevering, and these things will open up for you.
Oh, no doubt about it, Mike. I mean, today, you know what a lot of kids want? They want to be famous.
Yeah.
They want to be famous. I've had young kids say to me, I want to be famous. I'm like, do you want to be good? Yeah. I'll go if that works out, but I want to be famous.
Right.
And I'm like, you probably could get that one if you do this one.
Yeah, that's right.
But also to answer your question, you asked me before this one, which is, I have to tell you, to this day, every time I walk on a set, because I never do anything that I don't believe in. Believe me, I've had a few times in my life where I need a job, I got kids, and then I read a script, I get offered something, and it's not good, and my wife's like, "You're not doing it, are you?" And I'm like, "I'm not, darling." And I don't care. It's
Right.
just, you got to have your heart in it. But when I walk on a set today, whether it's television or film, I look around and I still have the same feeling I do from the beginning. I'm like, I love this.
Right.
I love this moment. I'm at peace. You know what? Get 200 people in a crew and put that camera 6 inches from my nose, and it's my quiet place, and I get my most concentration, and it's my joy place. So I'm
That's
grateful.
Bill, it's incredible. How have you, like, the one thing, and I seeing, obviously watching you from the outside, but it's so obvious, is how genuine and humble you are. And I feel like, again, something that's totally counter to what you think of when you think of Hollywood and everything that goes into that world. And so have you felt along the way that it's kind of been hard to stay grounded? I mean, here you are doing these amazing things, and just your humility comes off in everything you do. And it's striking, because it seems like that wouldn't be the case. And so, how, is it the Buffalo upbringing?
I've been invited to, like, gatherings and that, and I'm like, thank you so much for the invite, but the Bills are on TV. Sorry about that, buddy.
That's right.
It's not happening. Listen, you know what? I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
The pandemic kind of, as sad as everything was, it kind of worked out for me. Yeah, I'm in the garden. I'm one of these guys that I wake up, I open up the shade in the morning, I look in the backyard, and I'm like, that shrub back there needs a little attention right now. And it's my thing. I have people used to come visit, when I was younger, and they're like, hey man, where are the clubs? And I'm like, I know what restaurants are kid friendly.
That's great.
It's I don't really, my joy from being an actor it's never been about, some slap on the back or some sort of fame or anything. It's not that I mean, listen, anytime somebody comes up in an airport or something and, wants to talk about things, it's a joy. It's a joy. They've seen things that I've done. I appreciate that, but I don't live for it. I have known people in my life, actors, they live for the life of being an actor in Hollywood. I've never lived for the life. And it's just not my rhythm. I'm just appreciative to be a part of it. But at the end of the day, I don't take it home with me.
That's incredible, Bill. Again, I'm sure that's something that is not normal in the movie industry. So really incredible, Bill. I have so many questions for you, but I want to really be respectful of your time. One last movie question, something that I've always been interested in. Again, you've starred in iconic movies and held iconic roles. You mentioned this you briefly earlier, but I'm curious, what goes into saying, yeah, no, we're gonna, reading a script and saying, yeah, this is the one I'm gonna be a part of, and reading one saying, no, okay, no, I'm gonna pass on this. Is there any sort of metric or systematic approach, or is it just sort of a heart thing? You're like, oh yeah, no.
A great question, Mike. And you know what? Honestly, I don't know what it is each and every time. I don't know what it is. Sometimes it's the role. Sometimes it's the combination of the director and the whole thing. But I will tell you, I'm kind of old school this way. If it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
Yeah.
And I don't take anything that isn't any good. So, but it's got to speak to me.
Right.
If it's something, it's just like, if it's a character that's the worst guy in the world, and like I said earlier, and I haven't worked for a while, and it's like, oh man, it doesn't matter to me. It's not going to happen. And each time it's different. Like I did a pilot this past May, and then it's for 20th Century Fox and ABC, and you shoot the pilot. It's like the first episode of the series, and then you see if they pick it up. And I remember reading that pilot last spring. I just read through it once, and I called my manager and I said, oh, if they want me, I'm in. This is really good. Love the character, love the people involved. And they just picked it up like a month ago. So we start work on it for this new series in a couple of weeks.
Oh, congratulations, Bill.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's all the work you do is such a blessing. So I'm excited to watch it, because my family and myself have gotten a ton of enjoyment and entertainment out of everything you've done. So I'm so glad, pumped up to hear there's a new series coming. I was going to ask you about that. let's quickly go to Buffalo. I know I want to be, again, respectful of your time. What your upbringing in Buffalo, I have a feeling, is a lot like mine. Okay, so I'm from Brooklyn originally. My family's from there. You know my dad, and growing up, you were a Jets fan. It's like you're born into this world. You were born a Jets fan. So that was my upbringing. Was it similar for you? Is that how you became a Buffalo fan? It was part of the upbringing, right?
My dad used to go, and this is the old War Memorial in Buffalo. Now go back to the 80s when they were shooting The Natural, the film with Robert Redford. They looked all over the country and they're like, what is the oldest stadium we can get? And they saw the old rock pile, the War Memorial in Buffalo, and they're like, yeah, I don't think you can get older than that. And it was old back in the early 60s. Now when the AFL began, which is very interesting because, the Chiefs are in a division with the Broncos, with the Raiders, with the Chargers. Those are all original AFLs. I'm with the Patriots, which at the time were the Boston Patriots, and the Bills and the Jets. But remember, season 1 in the original AFL, they weren't the Jets, they were the Titans. Then they changed their name in 61. And the only one missing out of that group, out of the AFL, was the Houston Oilers. We know where they went. But my father used to go to games with Russ the Barber down the street. And it used to be me, Russ the Barber, and my father. And I remember sitting in that old stadium. And, and I have to tell you something. It's like, even to this day, I do find myself, I'm a bit more of an AFC guy than an NFC. Always was.
Yeah.
And I think when you grow up with your roots originally in the AFL, you can't help but do that. But I have to tell you, when I see, especially when they go into some of the throwback uniforms, when I see that old Boston Patriot on the side of the helmet or the Chief like that, I mean, this is stuff I remember as a kid that is just etched in your memory. You just never forget how vibrant all those uniforms were down on the sideline. And those were huge, huge memories for me. And they continued on and on. And then you also got to remember, too, like even when OJ came in the league, he played his first 3 seasons, I think, in the old stadium. Well, they were building the new one, which now is probably the second oldest stadium in the league, I think, where Buffalo plays now.
Right.
But, lifelong fan. What are you going to do? Listen, my driver ed teacher in high school said, I have the perfect place to take you kids so you don't hit any parked cars. He took us to the parking lot when they were building the stadium.
That's great.
We used to just drive in circles in the parking lot, and I'm like, that's a big stadium.
That's great. I actually just pulled these out. I don't know if you can see it. These are my pants from. My wife makes fun of me because I saw these on eBay. These were my game pants for the Titans uniform when they did the throwback when I was with the Jets.
Oh, really?
I wish I had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So no, those uniforms were cool. I love the throwbacks. But that's so you've been Buffalo through and through, diehard for a long time. I know you've seen a lot of good teams, some down years, some up years. Talk to me about this current team, Bill. What do you like about? Obviously, right now with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you really have 2 teams at the top and then everybody else. So it's got to feel nice watching the Buffalo Bills the past couple of years.
Listen, I think every other team in the AFL and the AFC, I think right now, really kind of gears their strategy about playing the Bills or the Chiefs.
Yeah, right.
And facing Patrick or Josh. They're just, listen, it's a great time to be a Chiefs fan. It's a great time to be a Bills fan. And believe me, let me tell you something. I love watching Josh play. As all your Chiefs fans love watching Patrick play, but I love when Josh plays. I love when something doesn't work out. I love when he gets upset because it's just like the guy just doesn't want to lose.
Yeah. And
he's gotten the support. But, the other side of the coin on that one, we all know it, is Sean and Brendan Bean are the GM of the Bills. They take it nice and easy. I'm grateful that the Pagulas that bought the Bills a few years ago have put all their faith into these guys. Let them walk with it. And, the proof is in the pudding. Are they going to win it all this year? I don't know, but they got a good shot.
Yeah, they really do.
They got a good shot. So do you guys. so we shall see. But it's a fun team to watch. Boy, there's no bickering Bills like the early '90s with this group.
Right.
You know, and also too, they're, you know, the guys are being smart. Sean and Brendan are smart. You know, Locke digs up for the rest of the year.
Right.
And Josh doesn't want to play anybody else. And, you know, I'm from Buffalo. It's a blue collar town. You know, Josh Allen came over. Oh my God, it was like he was born there.
Right.
You know, and he wanted to be there from day one. And that makes a big difference.
Right.
You know, remember back in the early '90s, Kelly got drafted, you know, out of Miami. It was like, I won't play in Buffalo. And he went to the USFL and he played with the Houston Gamblers.
Right.
And then when the USFL closed, Buffalo had his rights. He went there. So Buffalo's relationship with Kelly, which they love him now, but it took some time for them to grow together. Josh was day one. He got off the plane. We love you.
Right.
And he loves him back. So it's a lot of fun to be around.
Well, both of those two guys, both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, remind me of you in the sense that they're at the top, they're the best at what they do, and yet at the same time, they're incredibly humble. And both of those guys, I feel like, are unique in that sense. They're not your typical quarterback, I guess. They don't have that sort of aura about them. So to have those guys with that skill leading the team, I mean, that's incredible. One last question, Bill, before we let you go. Predictions for this weekend. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking the Vikings are going to win. That's what I'm thinking. No, I'm thinking the Jets are looking good.
Yeah, baby.
Zach Wilson. Oh, we're talking about the Bills and the Chiefs.
I should have been more suspicious.
Listen, it is kind of interesting. I don't know who does the scheduling, but you know, it seems to be in the last like 3 or 4 years. Forget about the playoffs. The Chiefs are playing the Bills like every year.
Right.
So no shock that it's again this year. Hey, you know, listen, I'm not shocked that, you know, it's been a little, you know, Buffalo for the last 2 weeks have had 5 defensive starters out. Micah Hyde is gone for the year. Gone. Tre'Davious White is starting to come back, but I don't think he's going to be ready this weekend. Then we get a bye, then we get Green Bay. Maybe then. That's been like 11 months since we've seen Tre'Davious White. I'm not making excuses. I'm saying we got some key players out there. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes. You know, on the other side of the coin, we got, you know, everybody's getting healthy. Isaiah McKenzie and Gabe Davis, you know, and so, you know, we got some. It's going to be great. Could I really pick a winner on that? I would not be shocked if the Bills lost. I would not be shocked if the Bills won. I wouldn't. And you know what? I honestly don't think. Listen, whatever happens in the game the next morning, all the writers are going to talk about. Obviously, this is the dominating. I don't believe that. I hate it. Listen, we're halftime of week 1. And people are talking about, all right, here's our MVP choice. I'm like, come on, you didn't get a hot dog yet.
That's right. That's great.
No matter what they say Monday morning, I don't think it's the last time we're going to see each other this year, and I don't think it's any determining factor either way. Whoever wins on who's in the driver's seat in the AFC, I really don't. This is a tough game. You guys are missing some players. We're missing some players. I got to tell you something. At the end of the game, I can promise you one thing. Patrick and Josh are going to be talking and giving each other a hug.
That's right. That's
what they do.
William Fichtner, on behalf of KCSN Chiefs Kingdom, we're just incredibly grateful. Thank you. I'm incredibly grateful, Bill. Thank you for coming on and for your time today. This was awesome. Really, really appreciate it.
Listen, no problem. When we meet in the playoffs, let's make sure that we set this up and we do this again.
Yes, definitely, Bill. Definitely.
Thank
you so much. Love you, bro.
All right. Go Chiefs. Go Bills. Best man will win.